Okay, great. And I think I'm going to give the membership number update as Siobhan's proxy right now. That's our next agenda item, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So our current membership number is just about 1,230 members, and which is very exciting, slowly creeping up. And we have a couple of membership events that are coming up. The big one that's going to be announced soon. We don't have the date confirmed, but we're going to have a summer party like we had last year. So keep your eyes peeled for the summer party announcement, which is going to be really fun. If you weren't there last year, we were at the parking lot right next to the co-op building, and we had food and games and live music, and it was just like food and ice cream, and it was a really fun time. So that'll just be a community building event that will be really fun to get everyone together for. And I'm sure there's something that I'm missing there, but maybe when Siobhan comes in, she can drop the rest of the updates in that piece.
Thank you, Katie. Awesome. So I'll pass it over to Ali for a financial report and finance committee updates as well.
Yeah, well, hi everyone. Hope everyone's doing okay. I've been all right. So for finance, there's been some changes that we wanted to make sure we captured processes within finance. So the things that we wanted to get a good grasp of was tracking, like evaluating our tracking system on how we are controlling the finances. I've met with our bookkeeper, Christine, as the person that's going to be managing that relationship with within finance. Along with that is making sure that information that Katie has been holding or that it's been within different council members, really centralizing it within like the finance committee, the role that I'm serving now as treasurer, to make sure it's all there. It's there, but centralizing it better. And the goals for the month that we have are, let's look at my notes here, is to continue on with this greater management of documents, making sure that projects that are being assigned or being lighted to within the different committees of the cooperative, that they have proper what's it called, reporting, which is the thing that I really want to take a good like a hold and grasp of. And yeah, I think those are like the big things there going on for finance. Yeah, and here to answer any questions that people might have.
Great. Thank you, Ali. So next we'll be going through some committee updates for other council committees. So in terms of governance, let me just pull these up. Yeah, so our governance committee, or our to be hopefully approved governance committee. So we'll be introducing the charter. But in terms of governance, what we've been working on is drafting a charter to formalize this committee. There's a lot of work that goes into governance, but so far we haven't had a formally chartered committee. The governance crew has also worked on hosting the annual meeting and facilitating the election, which allowed us to, and we've also within the committee elected 2 co-chairs, which are the council VP and secretary, who will serve on this committee. We have also confirmed 2 appointed council member seats and set up a structure for tight weekly and monthly committee reports, just to make sure we're tracking what each committee is working on. So for this upcoming period, what we have happening, our council members and staff will be attending this week the up and coming Startup Food Co-op conference, most of us, other than one council member. And so we'll be taking lessons away from that and meeting some other startup food co-ops. We'll also be focusing on staff review processes and establishing those. And another big project that we're working on is reviewing our current bylaws and drafting updates to make sure that they accurately reflect a multi-stakeholder structure. So we're working on building out the worker owner class in preparing for our grocery store food co-op opening and having workers as part of that. So
really
yep.
quick, Nina, do we want to share the slides so that everyone can, maybe that's like a
yeah
way to, okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to share on my screen?
Yeah, could you do that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, one moment. Although it'll be hard for me to take notes while I'm screen sharing, so, but I guess right now we're just talking through the things, so.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, is that, oh, let me make it slideshowy. Okay, got it, you can see it?
Thanks for doing that, Katie.
Sure thing.
Yep, so those were the things that we're reviewing. Yeah, we're going to be using these committee templates just to make sure that you all also have a visual and are able to see those high-level notes of what we've been working on. Expenses just been for the election platform and for hosting the annual meeting, our in-person event. And then 2 things that will be requiring council approval for are the governance charter, which we've just established, and the nomination subcommittee. So let's see, or do maybe we come back to this when Kendall is able to join. So let's keep going with updates for now. So let's move on to the business development committee. Thank you. Yeah, so in terms of the business development committee, Kivius,
Just trying to find this, I'm sorry.
no worries.
Okay, here we go.
That's it. Kivius prepared this. And so essentially what we've been working on since the last report, since the last meeting, has been identifying potential programming for the co-op to run, as well as identifying our partners, local organizations who will help us with implementing those. We're also working on clarifying which of these programs will impact our pro forma, as well as our building design, or both of these, so we can figure out how to update those accordingly. We've also began working on incorporating the EBT and EBT subsidy programs into our pro forma as well. So for this next reporting period, what we'll be working on is developing long-term partnerships with other food system figures and new economy organizations in and around Kingston to make, we can't. Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, my computer froze. Yeah, and just figure out how we're gonna do local food system work together. We'll also be having the business development committee partner with the community integration committee to develop a member manifesto, which is really focused on understanding member interests in purchasing policy, in kind of principles that will be applied in the development of the food co-op. We will also be determining an income-based pricing model to adopt, and we will determine how this is going to affect the pro forma and make sure that's reflected. So one thing I wanted to introduce is partnering with Thrive On, a Kingston-based think tank, to map out the food system. This is something they're already working on. And the purpose of this is to best understand what the co-op's role will be in transforming the local food system and identifying how that's going to impact our business plan. So there is a conflict of interest because Kivius is the head of that organization as well. And but we did clarify that this partnership and this research will not come at any cost to the co-op. The Thrive On is already doing this research around the food system. And so it would just mean partnering and feeding in and participating to make sure that what we're trying to learn for the co-op is reflected in this participatory action, community-based research as well. So that's one thing to note. Ali, do you have any feedback on that?
The main feedback that we've talked about in previous sessions have been shared, addressed, in particular, making sure that a proper proposal of work is sent in with certain deliverables that can then therefore be tracked, are that has been raised by me, and it's been met. So
great.
And then the thing with Kivius being with the head of the organization, just making sure that proper line of communication is just mapped out properly.
Yeah. And something I didn't mention, but we've been talking about in the committee as well, is we're going to work on developing a MOU to clearly outline what the roles are, what the expectations are. And so that'll be drafted by Thrive On, and then we will provide feedback and we'll have to approve it before we move forward. So that's going to also just like set a standard for how we do partnerships with organizations moving forward. Okay, so next up, Community Integration Committee. Sorry, you all are hearing my voice so much. I'm going to take this one as well. So in terms of the Community Integration Committee, we've moved forward with approving a budget and language for new printed materials, which Siobhan, who's here as well, is going to be carrying out. We've created a project plan template for staff to use as they're building out each of these individual community integration initiatives. We've worked on processes for outreach staff reporting as well. We've also had weekly follow-up and review of internship assignments, including meeting with our SUNY contact as part of a transfer to review goals and to date of internship, as well as receiving exchange terms and goals, as well as developed agreements for SUNY and the intern supported by Katie as well. Actually, since we've created this report, we've actually approved a number of other community integration activities. So we'll be sharing updates on that soon as well. Goals and projects for the next reporting period. We will be building out our member ambassador program. So that's still in development process. And that's a way to keep our community members engaged in doing our community work. We will be working alongside the Business Development Committee in a market study for the updated social enterprise business plan that reflects the programming that we've been building out. We will also be having and onboarding and integrating 2 new members from the Food Co-op into our Community Integration Committee in June. And so figuring out the best way to, tap into everyone's skills and resources and perspectives. We will also do an analysis and presentation on internship outcomes and what the impacts of that are for our social enterprise business plan. Then finally, also a final, I don't know what this piece is, final cross signing of SUNY New Start for women internship exchange. So we'll do a project debrief to adjust for the next version and identify future needs, as well as identify other cross-sector institutional support. So far this past period, we've only had a small expense of snacks for volunteers. Great. So store leadership development. How about I pass this one over to you, Ali?
Yeah, sure. So as everyone can see, there's the report for the committee. This one is Lindsay couldn't make it today, as that would be the usual presenter, but those are all there, the things that they've been working on, to highlight a bit of the work of the committee, to make sure that within the council members can apply their particular expertise. It's been divided to these committee structures to then tap in with different members, if any at all, to support the work. So it's a way that we branch out and then bring in to share work. So yeah, there's the work that they've been done, and it's been going pretty good. This particular format of sharing, it's something I highlighted too with the finance reporting, is just making sure that there's like a tracking or a way to like progress reports that could be much more transparent or open to the general membership. So
Yeah, and so part of this committee's work has also been looking at a transition to reflecting alternative leadership models. So as you'll see in the items requiring council approval, that there's an updated charter that focuses on store leadership as opposed to just general manager, which is a very specific kind of leadership model. And so that's something we'll also be looking at as well to approve. And that charter will essentially just allow this committee to move forward with exploring these models. And that committee includes both council members as well as other committee members. So cool. Let's also move on to Building Development Committee. So this is just a quick report. So this committee is on hiatus until the contract and timeline for the architect are confirmed. So the next step is that the council needs to review and amend the charter based on next quarter's capital project needs. So that will be circling back to that. Great. So let's move on to new business. We have a presentation of member survey data. Michael Marks and Xiao Yu Yang are here, and we're definitely very excited to. We've had a chance to look a little bit at this, and we're excited to be able to share this with membership as well, some of our learnings. So who would be the best person to share screen? And Katie, would you be able to share those permissions?
Yes, absolutely.
Chad, would you be able to lead the flow of the PowerPoint?
Yeah, sure. Could you enable me to share the screen?
I will do that. And thank you both for being here. I'll just give a quick bit of context that we've been working with Michael and Chow for, I don't know, many months at this point, on developing and creating and implementing the survey that hopefully everybody in this room has taken. Thank you for taking it if you did. It's really helped us learn more about our community. You guys are going to see about that in just 1 second. So I was talking and I didn't give you permissions, Chow, but here we go.
I still can, oh yeah.
Okay, there you go. You should have it now.
Okay, and
Great.
Michael, you're doing the opening, right?
Yes, I'll kick it off and then turn it over to you. So hi, everybody. Yeah, we're going to go over the results very briefly of the member and non-member survey that we conducted with Katie and Siobhan. I think you'll find the findings useful as you continue to embark on your subcommittees and work in the future that you guys just went over. So if you want to go to the next slide, Chow, thank you. What we'll do is we'll go over very briefly the purposes of the study methods, and then a sampling of key findings. And we'll be moving fairly quickly, but if questions come up, stop us and we'll definitely put the brakes on. Next slide, please. So we developed this survey to at the direction of the co-op to collect information and opinions on grocery shopping and food equality issues from members and non-members. The purpose is to assist the co-op in determining ways to partner with community organizations and residents to meet your very ambitious mission, which is to transform the Kingston food system, address inequalities, and identify how to design the co-op building and grounds to be most inviting for the community. So you guys have a tremendous mission, a very ambitious one. These are the study methods we used, and I want to highlight a few of these. We employ convenience sampling and not randomized sampling. So what that means is in layman's terms is that the findings here really can't be generalizable to either your entire membership or the community of Kingston. It's really, we just, found and identified with the help of Siobhan and Katie, members and non-members to take the survey, but then they can't be really seen as representative of the entire community. But nonetheless, it's exploratory, gives us a bit of a snapshot of what people are perceiving, as the importance and the design of the co-op. We use survey questionnaires that we distributed via email, and we did some community outreach to get ask folks to complete surveys. We create digital and printed versions in English and Spanish. We had a nice mix of fixed choice and open-ended questions, which enabled us to do both quantitative and qualitative analysis. 278 members and non-members completed the survey, which is a hefty amount, including 10 paper surveys that were collected from area youth. And we began to do some subgroup analysis. So most of the findings we're going to report on have to do with the entire 278 participants, but we did break down some of the people who completed the survey into subgroups to see if we can see any trends. In other words, were the responses from some of the subgroups different from the entire 278 online participants? And that we find that to be useful to see if there are some differences among the participants. Next slide, please. So these are the section. This is what we're going to go over. These are the 6 areas of findings that we'll go over. And Chow, you want to start with a description of who participated in the survey?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the survey participants, they're mostly members, females, white, non-Hispanic, and English speakers. And compared to non-members, a higher percentage of members were white and non-Hispanic. The age groups were widely distributed from below 30 to over 70. I think this is a success. And the mean age of participants is 49.27, with 1/5 aged between 31 and 40 years old, and 7.9% being 30 or below, and 6.5% being 71 or above. And 44.2% of the participants spread roughly equally between 3 defined categories: 41 to 50 years old, 51 to 60, and 61 to 70. So findings reveal comparably high percentages of survey participants who are people over 40 years old, females, and non-Hispanic whites. This needs to be considered in interpreting the survey findings. And the second section is on what are people's grocery shopping habits. And we found that 83.6% of the participants shop groceries in person at least once a week, while only 8.4% of the participants shop grocery online at least once a week. Compared to all participants, the BIPOC participants shop in person slightly less frequently, and they shop online slightly more frequently. So this is something interesting. And regarding transportation, most participants go to grocery stores by driving, as high as nearly 80%, followed by walking and biking. However, BIPOC participants tend to prefer getting a ride from others for grocery shopping to walking and biking, which is different from other subgroups surveyed. Regarding the weekly budget per capita, around 35% budget $50 or less per household member on groceries a week. Nearly 45% budget between 51 and 75 per capita on groceries a week. Only around 20% budget more than 75 per capita on groceries weekly. And budget per capita vary by membership status. We found that surveyed non-members reported a lower average budget per capita. In the low budget subgroup, 82% of the participants, they reported an average weekly budget of only $33.64 per capita, which is significantly lower than that of the other participants. And regarding where people usually shop at, we found that all participants, as well as those within subgroups, enjoy shopping at Hanover and Adams Fair Acre Farms. Surveyed participants with lower budgets by BIPOC identified, Midtown residents and non-members, they enjoy shopping at Aldi and ShopRite more than the average participants. And product options, product quality, and price are the top 3 concerns when people decide where to shop. The top 7 must-buys for participants are vegetables, fruits, dairy, bread, shelf-stable foods, fresh meat, and snack foods. And
Yeah.
and your
I'll move to this, but before we do that, we just hit you with a lot. Would anybody like us to spend a little bit more time on the findings to date? Is there anything that struck you as being, wow, I never thought we'd find that? Was there anything surprising?
Yes, Suzanne?
Yes, I was just wondering, did they specify which Hannafords they preferred to shop at? The one on Ulster Ave or the one in the Kingston Plaza?
Not really, because we only provide the option as Hannaford.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Thank you.
Good question, Suzanne. That would be a good thing to add for a future detail.
Yeah, I have one of my friends of color says she doesn't like shopping at the one on Ulster Avenue because it's very white, whereas she likes to shop at the one in the Kingston Plaza. So I'd be curious to hear more about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Any other questions or comments? I mean, I think it's important, and we've recommended this to Katie and to Siobhan, that we do a little bit of a deeper dive. We actually provided some recommendations that came off these findings, because we do believe that this information can help inform some of your strategies around community engagement, around facility development, around pricing. For example, as we see that there's a good chunk of the respondents, and again, we don't know if they're representative of the total, but there's a good chunk of the participants who took the survey who are operating on very, very tight budgets, with the per capita numbers being, extremely low. I'm not even sure how people could live on that, so it does speak to, and these, many of them were members, right? So it does speak to, the challenge that the co-op will have in both attracting new members and encouraging folks, to come in and do most of their shopping at the co-op, depending on the kind of policies you guys set up, so it's there's a lot here to kind of digest, I think. Any other, and that's just one example. There's, there's tons of others too. Transportation, most people drive. What is that? What impact does that have on your facility? That kind of stuff. And how do you come up with some alternative to transportations that are eco-friendly? Any other questions?
Yeah, or to have like carts, maybe some shopping carts available for sale, like the ones on wheels and stuff as well for those who walk.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Okay, we have a section here on, we asked a question, it was an open-ended question, I believe, about what did folks feel were examples of pleasant shopping experiences they encountered when they did food shopping. And if you, what we did is we did qualitative analysis on this. And if you look at some of the themes, they had to do with food products being healthy, fresh, a nice selection, locally produced with a reasonable price, having very friendly staff and also friendly customers as well. Quality and presentation of food selection was important, for it to be considered a pleasant shopping experience. And the facility layout. And we have a number of findings that suggest this being important. That the way the aisles are structured and the way that, the pleasantness of the surroundings, music in the background, and there was, and Chow will provide other data that shows that folks really want to have opportunities to eat outside, that kind of stuff. And these are all examples of pleasant shopping experiences. Next slide, please. And the young people, I thought this was useful to point out, the young people were very, again, it's only 10 young people, right? So you got to take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but the young people really focused on welcoming to young people of color and friendly staff. Obviously, these 10 people, 10 young people faced discriminatory behaviors on the part of staff, where, they were not feeling like this is a place that they can hang, that they can shop at, and that becomes something that young people are very sensitive to. They also, like the adults, talked about a facility layout and administration that is ease of access, wide aisles, ability to go in and out, get your shopping done, not too crowded, that kind of stuff. Next slide, please. And we also asked, contrary to this, what are examples of unpleasant shopping experience? And we use a word cloud here to show the most frequently stated comments that people made. And probably not surprisingly, unpleasant shopping experiences were linked to the store being crowded, being able to find goods and services, not having long lines to wait, having friendly staff, et cetera, et cetera. Next, please. So the next section, we asked a number of questions, and these were fixed choice questions about what participants felt ought to be priority community engagement activities that the co-op entertains, again, tied into the very ambitious co-op mission, right? And there were about 5 or 6 fixed choices that we worked with Katie and Siobhan on to articulate, but we also had an other category, right? So we gave people the opportunity to write in their own priorities if they didn't see ones that that resonated with them in the fixed choice. And as you see, the participants noted that the co-op focusing in on multicultural food and nutrition programs, obtaining feedback from BIPOC and other marginalized groups in terms of planning for the co-op. On-site community fridge was next, and these are sort of in rank order of how often these priorities were selected in terms of community engagement priorities for the co-op. And so it's interesting that multicultural food and nutrition programs were highlighted, and remember the demographic of the participants were primarily white, primarily older. So I think it does show the kind of interest that the membership has or the participants have in these kinds of priorities. Next slide. Young people had similar priorities. If you look at the most common one of the 10 was celebrating cultural diversity. Next were childcare, community refrigerator, and organizing multicultural education and nutrition. So it wasn't too different from the entire population of participants who completed the survey. Next slide, please. This question had to do with what would be the priorities that you as a participant would engage in to help the co-op address food equity and sustainability. So in other words, this is action oriented. What were you as a participant willing to put time in as a volunteer or some other activity that you would see as being important? And what's really pressing here and important is that the participants really tended to focus on environmental kind of activities, sustainability kind of activities, with compost being the #1 choice, supporting local urban farms, locally resourced goods and services, and actually participating in urban farming themselves, or supporting the farms to do that. Those were the top 3, and you can see the other choices after that. Next slide.
Michael, I'm just going to give you a quick 5-minute heads up here.
Okay, we will sprint. These are some themes, and most of these were actually noted in the other category of environmental specific education suggestions that the participants noted as being important, and those that they would also participate in. So for example, showing community members how to develop low or no waste packaging, programs to teach consumers how to make their own lotions, soap, or deodorants, co-op to develop policy on zero waste purchasing. So these environmental activities really were front and center from many of the participants in the survey. Next slide, please. This is a pictorial of barriers to shopping at the co-op. And you can see that parking, quality food, prices, time it takes to shop, access in terms of availability, which really kind of translates into opening hours, evening and weekend hours, and transportation were all noted as barriers. Next slide. And these are the differences in terms of the barriers as identified by the subgroups. Not too different from the entire group, but you can see that that cost and affordability was identified as a key barrier by the subgroups, even more so than the entire population. Transportation was next, and access, which really translates into both access, physical access by people with handicapping conditions, and also access in terms of hours of the co-op. Next slide, please. You want to take these, Xiao?
Yeah, I can do that. So this section is about how would the participants like the co-op physical space to look, and the participants chose an ideal grocery shopping space that is spacious, quiet, new and contemporary, vibrant and colorful. And youths reported preferences similar to other participants, except that a slightly more youth prefer small and cozy spaces to large and spacious spaces. More than half of the participants are fond of fruits, vegetables, flowers, gardens, artwork, large glass windows, and farm stands as decorations to display at the food co-op. And regarding, we also use open-ended questions to ask people what other displays attracts them. And 38 people answered these questions, and we identified some themes, including functional displays and displays that enhance accessibility of minority groups, educational and experiential displays, and displays from local or create connections. And these are a snapshot of the examples. And we found that more than half of the participants are, these are the findings I just mentioned. And participants expect an area where they can rest and share life with others after grocery shopping. They mentioned they expect a seating or picnic area or a small kids playground, community garden space, outdoor food trucks, cafe, outdoor kitchen, and bird feeder setup as an outdoor setup of the food co-op. And many mentioned that adding designs and displays that celebrate diversity in gender, sexuality, race, and ethnicity would make the space welcoming.
All right, so we're going to conclude here because there's a lot more to do. But what you have in front of you here is a pictorial as to why people decided to be a co-op member. You can take a look at that. Next slide. And these are examples of some phrases that people use to identify why they became a co-op. The basic theme here is that many of the respondents really focused on the systemic reasons for joining the co-op. Not necessarily only food, but what the co-op can mean to the community, which is very much aligned to your mission. And again, taking into account who the participants of the survey were. I think that's kind of an interesting finding, because you're going to have a large group, I think, of co-op members, if this is reflective of co-op members, who will be aligned with your mission, which I think is an interesting finding. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. And then we asked people who are not members what would convince you to be a co-op member. And I think we can all agree that many of these recommendations are doable. So as you guys seek to expand your membership, these are some of the helpful hints to look at to attract new, diverse, and different membership, to the co-op. Some are just waiting for the co-op to open. They're not going to join until they actually see a physical presence and get to walk around the store, and it's almost like a show me attitude. Others just need more information about the co-op, it seems. Of course, others are concerned about cost, which is not surprising. Both the cost of membership and the cost of products that'll be sold there. Next slide. I think we're wrapping up. So these are the kinds of, we concluded our paper, and there is a full paper we generated of recommendations that we offered you all on using these findings. So I think the findings could be helpful in looking at strategies to attract new members, and useful in helping you design your facility, including both indoors and outdoor setting aspects, goods and products to carry, pricing strategies, what you can learn from other stores, other competitors, community engagement, how to do that, food equity and sustainability, and barriers to shopping. These are all findings that I think could help you inform your subcommittee work that you guys were talking about earlier. Do we have another hour? We can go through this stuff in detail.
I know you all put so much work into this work. It's like hard to cut it short. So just acknowledging what you've created, and thank you very much.
Well, and Katie and Siobhan were invaluable, to get us on the right track.
Thank you.
Siobhan?
Yes. Thank you both so much.
Awesome. Well, maybe this is let's see, Kendall, do you think we should have questions here from folks, or do we want to wait on all of the questions until open forum at the end? I know we still have some things to get to on the agenda.
I think if there weren't questions in response to Michael's questions, then we should save them for the forum at the end.
Wait, what was
Unless,
that? Can you repeat
unless
that?
Michael and Chow have to leave, in which case.
I'll stay on since it is a membership meeting.
Yeah, I can stay.
Okay, thanks. Were you going to say something, Ali?
I didn't understand well whether the question format, but if they're going to stay, and then yeah, I have comments about the presentation, but that could happen towards the end when it's open for all.
And a quick reminder that members who are here, you all can put your comments and questions into the chat, and we can stack them as well for the open forum time if you want to do it that way.
So I'll stop sharing for now.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you. So I'm not sure where we were in the agenda, if you guys wanted me to pick up.
Yeah, we basically walked through all our committee updates. We did not yet do any of the charter approvals as we were waiting for quorum. We have Lindsay's consent to move forward with each of them. She sent those ahead of time. So we still want to do that. And then the one other thing that we had talked about an upcoming summer party as a membership event. And Siobhan, I'm not sure if there's anything that you wanted to add as an update there that we didn't quite cover yet.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to share the date that we're hoping to have it, just because we're still like waiting for permission to have approval to use the space. But yeah, Katie, do you think it's okay to say it, or should
Let's hold off on the date until we have it confirmed, but you can,
Okay.
yeah, I give a little overview about the summer party.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, so last year we threw a summer party. We had lots of different organizations come together and do like different activities of their choice. We had food and music, and it was right next to the future home of our co-op and in front of the Radio Kingston building and Big Bubble or Broadway Bubble shared space, shared parking lot. And so if we're able to have it there again, that will be where we'll have it this summer. And yeah, we're really looking forward to it. It was a really good time. A lot of people came out, a lot of people ate and had a lot of fun. So we're just hoping to have a similar turnout, if not better. And when we do get the date finalized and permission and all that squared away, then we'll be sharing it and promoting it everywhere, and hope that all of our members and community members and neighbors of the co-op can make it.
Yeah, thanks, Siobhan. So I guess then we should move back into charter conversation. Okay. So I'm not sure how we've done it in the past. I haven't been here for charter approvals. Will we go through one by one? Should we drop the link in the chat?
Yep.
Katie, do you know?
Let's put the committee charter information. Well, actually, I don't know if this is viewable. So why don't we share it on the screen and just bring it up? Are you able to help with that, Katie? Sharing
Sure.
that?
Yeah.
So let's start with the governance.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Watch me navigate on here.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, no problem. Where's my, here we go. Where are you, governance? Oh, here we go. Okay,
Yep.
Thank you.
Great.
So this one has been, well, okay, I guess, has this one been viewed by the full council? I mean, everyone's had access to it. I don't know if there are like conversations, discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah. Kendall, Lindsay, and I all worked on this, revised it a few times. And Ali, have you had a chance to take a look at this and review it? And or do you want to take a moment right now?
Yeah, I think it's important. The document was not sent with greater anticipation, so I want to take a great look at it. But beyond going through details, what are the big changes to this thing compared to the other one? Or
Yeah.
What are the big proposals here?
Yeah, so this work was all already being done informally as governance work. what we really did is there wasn't a charter for the governance committee formally. It was just a group of us meeting to work on these things, formerly particularly Lindsay and Katie, until we built out the council. And so now that we are meeting actively with the same group, we formalized it by putting in writing basically all the aspects of governance associated with the council. And so even though all council members are involved in governance, there's one committee that's almost like project managing these things to make sure that we don't lose track of any of these threads. So you'll see the scope is quite broad in terms of like foundational documents, HR, council meetings, oversight, leadership development, assessments, education, our retreat. And the deliverables outline specifically the things we have to make sure we produce, whether it's like around the revisions to bylaws or staff reviews. And so basically that's just all outlined here. There hasn't been any change. We've just put it in writing.
Okay, so just putting things in writing that was not there. Okay.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, so on the basis of just like approving then, yeah, this seems pretty standard and good that it's getting materialized, like, because this has been a ongoing thing, and you know, just for a membership to hear this, like putting the thoughts or like a process into paper to make sure there's a way that things can be measured or accounted for, who's doing what and why. I think this is a good thing. So yeah, just I think in that light, it's great that this was done.
Okay, great.
I consent if that wasn't already.
Great.
documented.
I consent and Lindsay consented as well. So that's
Nina,
great.
I'm screen sharing and I can't take notes. Could you just document that in the notes for us? Thank you.
Now, outside of that approval process, or you know, that just happened, a contextual question that comes up. So right now there's currently 4 members working on this. Is that something that you consider as a person of part of this committee, that'll be like the ongoing, a good number for people to have in that committee, or more people to join, members, volunteers, or yeah, what do you think, short-term like project thinking?
I think that this committee has been very comfortable with the number that we have now. And I think maintaining it as council members makes sense because governance is a council responsibility. This committee is essentially just to keep track and to have an actual space to hold that accountability and have it ran out and for process, but it all essentially falls under the council. This is like governance oversight, so on and so forth. So it's specific to the council. And I think the number's been pretty good. I don't know what others.
Well,
would
to
say.
clarify, more like what the number, like, is that number of 4 people of resources, like I'm thinking like 4 resource members to dedicate to this work, like
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
wants
that
to be
was.
continued, or is it, you think it's gonna maybe?
I think we're at a
watered
good
down?
working capacity.
Mhm. I would echo that.
Okay. Great. So what else we got?
So the next,
Nominations.
yep.
So we turn nominations into a subcommittee of governance because it mostly falls under governance already. A lot of the work is done by governance, but to still have a specific space for accountability when it comes to nominating members to the council and yeah, members to the council, right, and to committees, possibly.
Okay.
And all the changes there, you can see were highlighted. So it's pretty much deliverables were the main thing. We built that out.
Yeah, and I mean, nominations of council members, right? or what nominations of what?
Nominations of council members.
Yeah. So curious, why was it thought that a specific subcommittee would be necessary for this, considering that part of a general council board member responsibility is that like ongoing, responsibility to maybe recruit, like be a spokesperson of and for the cooperative, in that sense, also be a way to like a recruiting method. Like why was the like a specific need for a subcommittee to focus that?
I'd say to house the specific tasks of, if you read through, so that when it comes time for nominations and elections, we're not trying to delegate out. We already know where all of this lives and who's a part of this committee and what their roles are. So there's certain tasks like interviewing and taking those notes and sharing it with the committee, and then actually making sure that candidates are prepared and kind of like overseeing the onboarding process. That's all very specific and we don't want it to get lost in the cracks. So to make sure that there is a house for it or a room for it in the governance house is important, just to make sure that everything is very clear. We know where everything lives, who's accountable to what, and so on and so forth. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add to that.
I would just say that, yeah, this is again like an example of something that is on, has been done, but like sometimes things do get missed, and like in order to put it on our annual council calendar, we're able to really fill out like what the work is and pinpoint who is doing it. And I think having it in a committee, having it home, it's like Kendall said, having it in a committee makes it easier to have accountability for that.
And it was a chartered committee. All we did here was actually combine it with the governance committee so that we're not repeating work and or not having members of the governance committee having to have separate meetings or anything like that. We can do it all in the same space because we have the capacity in governance, and nominations does fall under governance.
Yeah. Okay. Will this then also like have part of the deliverables of reviewing of like onboarding material, like
Yeah.
packets?
Could you scroll down a little bit, Katie? Yeah. Thank you.
So I see the first point, understanding the role of council, but more of a, unless I'm missing it here too in my screen, but like a version 2.0 document of onboarding, like a actual, if not a physical one, but like a virtual, like this is your onboarding packet. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think actually that onboarding lives in governance. Let me just remind myself. I think like going back to the project plan for governance committee, I think it actually does live there because I remember having this conversation. Council leadership and development, including assessments and trainings. I
think we had considered it under council education here under the deliverables.
Yeah, we could go back to the governance committee project plan and just confirm that that's true, but it does. Yeah, we should make sure that it's somewhere for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, I got it. Sounds good of putting things to paper.
Would it be okay if I posed a question to the group as a member?
Michael, yeah, we have an open forum time, which is, I think you missed the beginning when we talked about that, but can you put it in the chat and we'll stack it so that we can keep
Absolutely, sure.
moving through. Thank you. Okay, so where are we with this committee charter approval?
I consent.
Yep.
Yeah, it sounds good. I think recognizing that, this are things that have been in the air, or porous, just out there, and finally putting it here. testing it out, see if it works, tweaking and fixing. I'm in that spirit of doing so. Good.
Me as well. I consent, and as Lindsay's proxy, consent for her as well.
Yay. Okay, and there was a third one, right? The store leadership committee. Okay. Kendall, do you want to give the context for this one?
Yes, sure. So this was once our general manager search committee. And as we talked about during the annual meeting, we decided to make a shift. And instead of going with such a hierarchical leadership structure and having the GM responsible and accountable for so much, that we are going to explore the option of having a more horizontal leadership structure, having multiple people working in collaboration to run the store. So this committee and this charter was created, to try to form a committee whose sole purpose is to actually do the research first and foremost. We need to actually figure out what structure we're going to go for. And once that is then figured out, this committee would also continue over to the hiring and onboarding of the leadership staff that we end up going with, and within whatever the structure is that is decided within the committee through the research, essentially. If that makes sense. If there's questions, I don't know.
And just want to highlight that this charter does include a timeline, and it's broken into 3 phases of research, hiring, and staff development. And also that the committee members several committee members from the GM search committee are going to transfer over to this new committee.
Yep. And we did, this was done a while ago and was brought up in council meetings during our updates. So this has been around in case otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's a change or a recognition of changes with members in the short time that I've been here. So 5 months, I've been capturing the changes, and I guess my what I want to make sure is, so agree, recognizing changes and adapting, pivoting with input from members or people that are part of committees. The thing here is, I see this committee, particularly the 2 council members and 3 to 7 community members. I know this is a committee that has had that participation in the past. That something that is foreseen to continue, given that this is an integral part of the work in the future or currently? How's that thing going on?
Yeah, well, it's at least 2 council members. And also I think that the people who were involved in the general manager search committee were all a part of it because they have some sort of expertise in the field that we don't have as council members. They have more expertise than we do. We have people who have managed grocery stores before, have been part of leadership teams at other co-ops. So they have a lot of background and knowledge when it comes to this specific thing, which is why they were already assisting us greatly, actually, with the GM search committee. So hopefully they will want to come and join this new store leadership committee. And they sounded enthusiastic about it, actually, and exploring the different alleys. So I don't know if that answers your question fully, Ali.
Yeah, sort of, like that there is this, outside of this, the guide and the plan, that this is something that we wants to continue to happen, that there is that, all of this is dependent on council work, but also membership work. We as council members, that we are members in itself. so dependent on outside membership to come in and support. So making it clear that that sort of outreach or engagement with membership to give that input or and to drive certain things is like a clear thing. So like, as in, this is a good form to follow, but I think it just highlights that point of we have to, that piece of engagement with members is a like an ongoing thing to capture, you know? So yeah. And to clarify, when it said like various leadership models available, what does that mean? Leadership models
For running the store. So this would be in place of a singular general manager. And I think it's kind of vague because it's like, that's the research aspect of it. Whatever, we have to see what's out there, what has been done before, what leadership models exist, basically, what other examples there are.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I've been in these conversations in different points with the working groups, but I think more, I don't know how much different things are out there, you know, to figure out. But again, this sounds great, you know, putting the ideas to paper, having a clear thing to follow and to see. My only concern is that what I mentioned, just making sure we get enough member engagement to support that drive, you know.
So are you suggesting, Ali, just to be clear, that you want to open the committee to more people? Is that the, like you're seeing like
7?
Well, that's not what I was, I mean, that's a good question. From the work that I've done in the past, it's like, it's always good to capture the membership expertise. I haven't identified that that's been an issue here, or to say like, hey, we need to open it more. The impression I get is that people that do have a desired intention to participate and to give their expertise, they will reach out, you know, given, you know, this is recording, people see it, we engage them and create points of contact that they will say, hey, I want to participate in this plan. So I guess that deciding or allowing people in, not allowing in, but, you know, inviting to participate is a thing that's going to happen anyway, right? If it were, you know, if that were to happen.
right. So it's more about just like the communication about the work that this committee is up to, and like the support that's needed from membership and that kind of thing. And like,
Yeah, because it's all that, like, it's clear to me that the people are the driving force. And I know there's a thing that was highlighted particularly in the presentation of the survey, that there's a certain engagement that we have, but we want to make sure that we reach people of color, people that maybe have different economic possibilities, to make sure that we capture, invite to this creative process. So, I mean, this is all we've been working on and thinking, you know, but I just want to state that here, right? That like, that's also like a thing that we've all been getting and want.
Yeah, sounds good. And we can talk about that more also in other meetings. I do want to urge us to keep going so we have time for the open forum, and we have another charter to visit after this one. So I consent to this charter.
I consented this charter as well.
with Lindsay as your proxy, you're proxying for Lindsay?
Yes,
Okay.
and proxying for Lindsay.
Ollie?
Yeah, that was a long way of saying yes.
Okay. Oh, did we do the community integration? Was that the first one we did?
No, we haven't done community integration yet. We did
Okay, well,
governance and nominations.
We have one more charter to do. Okay, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you do or not. That's okay.
I'm ready.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah. So last charter is community integration, which has just a couple of updates, I suppose.
So we're really just, I actually don't know the changes to this in the particular. Kendall, is this something that
I I don't know. I was under the impression we already voted on this. I didn't remember making changes to it either, unless
Yeah.
it's just create annual communications plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Maybe this accidentally got put on a second time.
Yeah, I don't think we made any changes other than that one line of create annual communications plan.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
I consent to that.
But why don't we just, since there's nothing else on here, let's just take the week to review it and double check that there's nothing else that needs to be adjusted. And then just revisit this one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially since I didn't talk to Lindsay about this, so.
Okay, so this one will be revisited. And was there anything else on the agenda that we didn't touch before we go into the open forum?
I think we got it all. And just acknowledging also that it's 7:15, so we're over time and.
Oh, what, this doesn't go till 7:30?
That includes our executive session.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Okay. Well, we can open up for questions still because I wouldn't want to take that away from anyone. Michael had a question in the chat, which was, do we have a clear set of practices on decision making? And what kind of issues go to membership? What are handled by council members? Also, how decisions are made, consensus, majority, etc. And great statement, Michael, that these issues being thought through carefully and clearly are very important. And actually, we've really been talking about that recently. First answer is we have a consensus structure. So we only move forward with decisions if everyone consents. And if someone has a block to something, then we go through our, I don't even remember the flow chart of recalibrating through decisions. I don't remember exactly what the name of the chart is.
I'm just gonna drop a link in the chat here, which is about consent decision making, which is different from consensus decision making. But there's a link that you all can check out with like a little bit more information about how that works.
Yeah, and this is something we get trained on every year, and so for us new council members who are just joining, we're having a training in June just to refresh what was introduced to us. But that's specifically within the council, and in terms of other decision making, that's something we're actually building out to create like something in writing too. As you know, you've heard a theme, we're trying to put things down in writing, have them be very clear. So we're working with a decision-making matrix right now. And that's something the governance committee is working on for this next reporting period.
Yeah, just to add, it might be good just to be real clear about the kinds of decisions that go to consensus decision-making. I mean, and there are various models out there, but to think through what has to go through a full consensus and what enables kind of a manager of a project to move forward fairly clearly, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we've been talking about that too. What can be kept within committees, decisions that can be made within committees or have to be brought to the full council for consent from everyone. And yeah, that's all going to be part of that decision-making matrix as well. So hopefully we'll have that for you all next month. Thank you for the question, Michael. Let's go on.
You're welcome.
Do we have any more questions or comments? Ali, and you had a question.
This was on the survey. So I've seen bits of that survey in other meetings. To the people that elaborated it, I believe at the beginning, you talked a bit about the major, well, I'm not sure if you did, but like any limitations to get any limitations that experienced during the elaboration of the survey, one. Then the second, what could be done differently, having this as a base, like the example that the question that member, I think Suzanne mentioned, that of the difference of two different locations, how while being the same, they have different cultural or social significance. Yes, as one that was like, so what other, that into consideration, what other things you think in the future could be better adjusted or adapted?
I have some ideas. Chow, anything come to mind?
I would say two versions of surveys in the future, one for members and one for prospective members, because now we're combining both groups. And so we're seeing the trends, but it's hard to interpret like what findings are from the members, and some of them findings are from the members and some are from non-members. But when there are different findings from the two groups, what are we going to do? Are we going to meet address the needs of the members, or are we going to consider the needs of the non-members? So I think that is a point that we can be more clear in the future if we're creating new surveys.
Yeah, I have two ideas, and one is that I think it'd be really good to get as many members as possible to provide information to you all and to the membership, so it might be something, and we put this in recommendations for you to consider adapting some of the survey and maybe including some other questions as sort of a, when people sign up to be a member, to make this sort of an initial engagement strategy, ask folks to complete the survey as part of membership. That's one thing to kind of think about, and we have some ideas also on what to include, what additional things to include. I mean, it's always a balance to make the survey manageable too. We gotta make sure it only takes 15 to 20 minutes. The other thing too is capturing information only by survey could be limiting. Some people don't like to complete surveys. Other people would rather provide information in sort of an interview format or facilitated discussion format. And that could be another way to capture information. For some reason, and again, I have to caveat this by saying this small sample may or may not be representative of the entire population, but the African American subgroup had a lot of missing data in completing the survey, and we don't know exactly why that is. It could reflect the fact that the survey maybe wasn't all that clear. It could reflect a time issue. It could reflect an interest issue. It could be that the survey wasn't culturally sensitive enough. I mean, there's all these different, possible reasons for that, which we have to explore. But that was one observation that we had, that I think of the 40 African American participants, we had a good chunk of missing information on some questions. So it's those are two things that come to mind.
Yeah, and to add, did you mention that the survey was available in different languages?
Yes, English and Spanish. Yep.
Okay. And how was that, the Spanish turnout?
Do you remember that, Chow? How many people completed the survey using the Spanish version?
Yeah, let me just check.
So that's
We can
something
find
that I believe we could also access, right? We have access to the survey.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for the sake of time, we should keep moving because we were already over time.
Well, this would be, so it's in the recording of the meeting,
Right.
that figure. So I don't believe it. Can we just give it 15 seconds?
I think the numbers were low, but Chow,
Yeah, it's very low.
Or if not the specific number, but did you experience a similar constraint to that, what you mentioned of missing data or
We didn't do a separate analysis of Spanish speaking only, or the people who completed the survey using the Spanish version. We did not do that. That was not a subgroup. The number was very small, I believe.
I
okay.
think it was a handful, as I remember, like literally 5 or something like that. We did have, I mean,
less than 10, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, we had activated some member ambassadors to support in getting the survey out. And we'd also planned to do, we had a whole plan for, in-person meeting facilitation, like the facilitated discussion that Michael had mentioned, which was going to be a major part of how we were going to gather data. And then this was happening in the winter and just COVID forced us to shut it down. So we were kind of limited to the written or this like digital survey format, which we knew going into it was going to be far from perfect.
Good. That's good context to know too. Thanks, Katie, and the survey team.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who just contributed. Suzanne, I saw you had a question.
Yes, thanks. So I'm a member, and this is the first meeting I'm attending, so glad to be a part.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation on Facebook and an email. I'm also working with the Broadway Bubble, and kind of helping to do some promotions for them, as we've had our opening day yesterday, and I hope to continue to build that relationship. So we're neighbors there. My question, because I've kind of been really out of the loop, but like, what's the timeline for opening? Where are things at about?
Who wants to take that one?
It's not up on the website yet, right?
No.
Well, I do think it's planned to go up on the website, if that helps. Who wants to take that?
Well, yeah, I'll give a little snapshot and start by saying, like, the timeline has shifted a lot and it continues to shift. But at this particular moment, the work that we're doing right now is like finalized. So basically it's like the building design is like, once that gets going, and the architecture and construction, that like then we're on a pretty tight time schedule. And until that launches, we're kind of like doing all the lead up work that needs to happen in order to get us to that place. So right now we're doing the business plan development, which is our social enterprise business plan. And that is going to create the programming foundation and the financial foundation that we're going to give to our architects, and that they're going to, use that to design the space that's going to be brought to members and the broader community to give feedback and ideas. And then construction will begin. So that's the really long answer, and there's an even longer one. But the short answer is basically that hopefully, this summer we're planning to sign a contract with our architect and begin that design work. That initial design period is going to be approximately 4 months. And then with all the construction planning, hiring our construction team, getting all the construction documents in place, and doing community engagement piece, the hope is that by the middle of winter, like January-ish, we'll be able to start construction. And that construction time, though, is, those kinds of projects always take a little bit longer than we think, right? And we have to build out this whole building. So we are allotting about 12 months for the construction period itself. So that kind of brings us to the beginning of 2024. And I'll just put into context, food co-ops in startup phase often take between 5 to 10 years to open. So right now we're in our 4th year. We just hit our 4th birthday, which is very exciting, like the little babies and also like full grown adults at the same time. So we're basically hitting right where we need to be, even though it does feel like a long time. We're right where we need to be in terms of the process that is expected to take.
Great. Thanks for that vision. Sounds
I would
good.
also add that there's so few co-ops that have your mission.
Yeah, and that's something that we brought up also in the annual meeting, that adds to it, making sure that we are actually staying aligned with the mission and don't get too caught up in the entrepreneurial store aspect of it, and still remember that this is a community-based thing and keep the people in every part of it. So yeah, and I'll add that also the hiring of the leadership team is really important in this process, and everyone that we talk to basically recommends that what would normally be the general manager would come on a year before the store opens to kind of help facilitate hiring and contracts with vendors and building out the building and everything like that. So that work, now that we've decided to switch into a new model, we have to do research first and then start actually hiring out. So hopefully we'll be able to do that, and they'll be on by the time we're also doing construction. And so if that all lines up well, then everything, we'll have a nice smooth transition, the new leadership team and construction happening at the same time.
Yeah, and I'll add to that is, since I've been here and hearing the different, coming into, I think going to the halfway mark of the 1-year appointment, is that the messaging, what everything Katie and Kendall said, are things that have been consistent with the bigger picture of things. And in the past 6 months, in working with this group, is to get that greater focus on the processes and how are things done, making sure there's a good there's a good system to carry the vision or the idea forward, because in the mix of things of trying to open a co-op or running a co-op, I said this in a previous meeting, that it's like showtime, and there's a lot of moving things. So there's been a lot of due diligence in this time to make sure that this timeline that has been shared already and has been consistent is receives a good launching pad. Launching pad comes to mind. Yeah, but just wanted to share that.
Thank you for that question, Suzanne. It's a great question. I'm sure everyone's always wondering. So we are far over time, but if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to send an email to council@kingstonfoodcoop.com. Also, please join us next month and spread the word. So more people will come join us as well. And thank you all.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, have a great night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.